tells you lies, or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the crown? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow, or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that satisfies? Do you believe in a God that opens eyes? Do you believe in a God that tells you lies, or do you believe in me? Do you believe in a God that brings you down? Do you believe in a God that wears the crown? Do you believe in a God that makes you bow, or do you believe in me?
It's Beyond Common Sense, it's Lanny Sense with Lanny Swerdlow, KCAA's resident gay, woke, liberal, pot-smoking, race-mixing, tree-hugging, left-handed, science-affirming, Jewish, humanist, atheist, a white evangelical Christian nationalist, worst nightmare. Hey, welcome to Lanny Sense. I am so glad you are here tonight to join us. All right. Anyway, I have a thing to admit. I'm running a little late. I lost my cell phone today. I don't know where I put it. So the show's going to be a little awkward tonight. When you call in, Eric's going to answer the phone, and he'll let me know that you were there, and we've got a great show. Because who is joining me tonight but my great friend Sam Clowder, who I have promoting as a progressive curmudgeon. And he's a wonderful guy. He's been on the past couple shows, and we're going to discuss all kinds of things. Hope that you'll call in and join us. If you have some kind of topic you want to discuss about or some kind of opinion, please call in. The numbers to call in, there's two numbers, 909-383-1000, 909-383-1000, or 909-383-1000. 9,000. So either call 1,000 or 9,000, 909-383, 1,000 or 9,000. I hope you will call in and join us tonight here on our show. And we've got a great show tonight. So, all right, Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah.
Is that your dog?
No. Is there a reverb?
I don't know what it is. Eric, do you know what it is?
Yeah, there seemed to be a little bit of a echo.
Huh. Well,
On my side, right?
Yeah.
you have your speakers on, Sam?
Yeah, I do.
You need headphones. You need headphones. Do you have headphones?
Yeah.
No.
Hold on. You go ahead and get started up.
Okay, I'll go ahead and I will start. And what am I going to start with? I just want to tell you, I've just got some political things I was going to talk about, but I want to tell you about something that I just learned about today in the city of Riverside. As I was driving to an appointment, I got this phone call from a friend of mine, Stephanie, who used to work with me at the THCF Medical Clinic, where we provided patients with their medical recommendations, and we opened next door a medical marijuana collective. We were one of about 10 collectives that opened up illegally, supposedly, in the city of Riverside. The city of Riverside sued all of us, saying we're violating the zoning laws. At that time, nobody really knew if they could actually pass a zoning law, banning the state-permitted activity under their zoning laws. And one case that was moving forward, for some reason, the case got mooted, and we became the dispensary I was with, the Inland Empire Patients Health and Wellness Center, we became the prime litigants being sued by the city of Riverside, and went all the way to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court ruled that yes, cities can ban medical marijuana collectives under the zoning ordinances, and that settled that. And so this has been a major problem ever since, that the Supreme Court said, yes, cities can ban marijuana dispensaries, whether it's medical or recreational or whatever, under their zoning ordinances. And a lot of this gets closed down. And it's just, well, anyway, so the city of Riverside spent over $300,000. They hired a whole team of lawyers from BB&K, this law firm that represents a lot of cities and counties throughout the state of California. We didn't have that kind of money. We didn't have that money. we had about $50,000 to hire one lawyer. They had a team of lawyers. So I guess it's no surprise that we lost at the Supreme Court because we just did not have. And what was so sad is that there was all these other collectives throughout the state of California that would be imperiled by this decision. And only one out of all those collectives, one collective gave us $500. If all these collectives had put in money in this kind of stuff, and we could have hired a team of lawyers like the city of Riverside did, maybe we could have won. But these collectives didn't see that by helping us, they would be helping themselves. So anyways, the city of Riverside spent all that money to close them down. Well, about a year ago, the city of Riverside started under these discussions to allow marijuana, these are recreational for all reasons under Proposition 64, to open up and go to business. And they went through the whole process. They drafted the ordinance. They put out they invited people to apply for the 10 slots or whatever it is they're going to make available, 16 slots. And I guess they had over 60 people apply, and it was not cheap to apply. You had to pay thousands for this, and I would say the average person spent somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 in fees that went directly to the city of Riverside to apply. And then they chose 24, I believe it was 24 places to open up throughout the city of Riverside. And 24 is not a lot. The city of Riverside is like 350,000 people. So that works out to like one collective for every 12,000, one marijuana dispensary for every 12,000 people in the city of Riverside. So these places had rented places. They spent money fixing them up and all this kind of stuff. And they're all getting real close to the opening. Well, guess what happened? In the November election, all the Democratic city council members got defeated by Republicans. They got defeated by Republicans. And the Democratic majority that was on the city of Riverside City Council had now become a Republican majority. And guess what they were discussing tonight? They were discussing revoking the entire ordinance, turning it all down. Everybody had paid those fees. Everybody didn't spend his money. You're out of it. Now, I don't know what the results of it was, but that was up for discussion tonight. Closing down the ordinance before it even got started. People have spent money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they were going to pull the rug out from under the whole thing and close them down. Now, I don't know what they decided to do tonight. They may have decided to go through it and close them down. They may not have. I would hope they haven't. But, if I was a dispensary person there who got the licenses and started spending all this money, I'd sure as hell sue the heck out of them for telling me I can do this, and then suddenly at the very last minute, he's pulling the rug out from underneath me. But what's interesting, like when the Riverside City Council had. You got to turn your speakers off, Sam. When the Riverside City Council had a Democratic majority, marijuana dispensaries, recreational sales, medical sales, whatever, would all be legal and regulated and licensed and make a lot of money for the city. But now the Democrats were defeated and the Republicans took over. And now what happens now? I'll tell you what happens now. We don't know for sure if it went through or not, but they certainly are trying to close them all down and pull the rug out from underneath them. So what that boils down to is, you got to support the Democrats. That's what. And what's so stupid is I'll bet you all these people that spent all this money and were spending all this money fixing up places to open up and this kind of stuff in the next couple of months, I'll bet none of them, I bet not one of them gave a single dime to any of the officials that were up and running for re-election that had voted to allow dispensaries to open up. I don't know for sure, but I am betting that none of them helped any of those people retain their seat on the city council. Marijuana dispensary people, they don't have. I sometimes wonder what they've got for brains. Because they're not very supportive of this. The organizations are trying to support them. There's Cal Normal. I don't know how much they give to Cal Normal, but they don't give them very much. Then there's a California Cannabis Industry Association. That's their trade group, and they're struggling because most of them don't join them. Now, I understand that marijuana business, cannabis business, are not doing very well. They're not doing very well because the taxes are exorbitant. The regulations are just Byzantine. The licensing requirements to open up are just bizarre. I believe it would be easier to open up a nuclear power flower plant in a lot of these cities that are allowing dispensaries to open up than to try to open up a cannabis business in one of these dispensaries. These ordinances are so complex. You have to hire a lawyer. You have to hire a lawyer in order to be able to wade through it and all this kind of stuff. It's just absolute. And then of course, 3/4 of the cities and counties in California just banned them all together because Proposition 64 was written that way. Proposition 64 allowed the Supreme Court decision to stand and said, yeah, if this gets approved, if city or county doesn't want to have marijuana dispensaries or marijuana businesses in their jurisdiction, they can go ahead and ban it. And about 3/4 of the cities and counties in California are cannabis deserts, where you either have to drive, 50, 100, 150 miles to somewhere that does have legal dispensaries, or in most cases, they're going to keep getting their marijuana the old-fashioned way. They're going to buy it for criminals. And sometimes I wonder, these cities that are banning legal dispensaries, I'm wondering if they're getting money in their pocket from the illegal growers and the illegal business, because once the legal business come in, that should put the illegal business out of business. But it doesn't. Why doesn't it? Because the taxes are so high. The taxes are like 30%. 30%. The taxes on beer and wine is like 1%. It's just absurd. It's just absurd. So they make it so expensive that a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to pay that kind of money. I'll just buy it from Joe down the street over here, and he'll sell it to me for a lot less, and I don't have to pay all the taxes. So anyway, so that's what's happening here. But I heard about last night in the city of Riverside, and it is so typical of what's going on. And I just tell you, cannabis people just have their heads up, their proverbial you-know-what. It's, unless we get political, we're going to have things happening like may have happened tonight in the city of Riverside. And if you're living in one of these cities or these counties that don't have any legal sales and you have to deal with criminals, hey, maybe you like dealing with criminals, because if they were legal, you'd have to pay more. So, maybe there's maybe there's no incentive for the people who live in these cities and counties where it's illegal to fight their city council members and to fight their county board members to get them to allow it to open up, because they have no problem getting it anyway. There's so much illegal going on here. And one of the interesting things, one of the people that sits on the board of directors of the Brownie Mary Democrats was a dispensary owner. She lost her dispensary. Had all these financial problems and this kind of stuff. And she was telling me that they are thinking of suing the city of Los Angeles for non-enforcement of the laws. In other words, their problem is that there's all these illegal dispensaries that are actually operating out of storefronts in Los Angeles. They're actually operating, and they don't have a license. They just open up. And the city of Los Angeles does practically nothing to close them. So they sit there and sell without paying taxes. So they undercut the legal dispensaries that pay the taxes. And the city of Los Angeles does nothing. And so what they're saying is that, well, look, they're still getting a lot of tax revenue. They should be using this revenue to close down these illegal places so they wouldn't be competing with the legal places. But they don't do that. This whole thing is such a mess. Proposition 64, legalizing cannabis, it did a lot of really good things. For one thing, the number of arrests for people who are cultivating marijuana or selling marijuana has just plummeted. I don't know what the number is, but it used to be 80, 90,000, 100,000 people a year or more, and it's just plummeted. I'm sure it's less than 10,000, 3,000 or 4,000. It's way down there. And so that's one of the good things. People aren't going to jail for marijuana anymore here in California. Another good thing is that the prices come down. When Proposition 64 was on the ballot, cannabis was selling on it was an illegal market, but still wholesale. It was about $2,000 or $3,000 a pound. Now it's come down to about $1,000 a pound. Still absurd for a plant. It's a plant, for goodness sakes. What plant in its relatively raw state is worth $1,000 a pound? Nothing. But cannabis, that's what the wholesale price is going here in California, around $1,000 a pound. So Proposition 64 did some good things there, but some things it did were horrible. Proposition 64 is not written to be cannabis legalization nirvana. Proposition 64 was written so it would pass. And so all these objections people might have were dealt with in the proposition, such as if a city wants to ban or county wants to ban, they can do so. And they put these absurd taxes. They had a cultivation tax that the farmers pay per pound, per ounce, and then they had excise taxes of 15 and 20%, and then the cities could put on additional excise taxes. So you have 15% state excise tax, you get a 15% local tax, and then you have the $9.25 per ounce state tax at the cultivation level. You're getting a pretty expensive product just on the taxes alone, and that's just saying. And they're just greedy, and so. And they're losing a lot of money because if these illegal sales weren't there, if the taxes were a lot lower and not high enough so it pays people to run out and find an illegal dealer, they'd probably be selling a lot more marijuana that's legal, and the state would take it, and the city county would take it. But talking to these people, it's like talking to a wall. Anyway, that's enough for my rant and rave about that. But that is what is going on with cannabis and what just happened tonight in the city of Riverside. Like I said, I don't know what the final decision of the Riverside City Council was. You can Google it, I guess, or don't use Google. Use DuckDuckGo. I never use Google. Google tracks you and sells your information to everybody who wants to the highest bidder. DuckDuckGo doesn't do that, so you should use that for your search engine. But anyway, go to the search engine and type in City of Riverside marijuana ordinance, and whatever happened tonight might come up. I'm sure the meeting is still going on now. It's only 8 o'clock, something like this. I'm sure there's a lot of people there to testify. Well, Sam, I'll get off my high horse about that.
Can you hear me?
High horse? Yeah, we can hear you okay. And there's no echo now because you're using earphones. Those are very stylish earphones, by the way. Very stylish. Hey, if anybody wants to call in and talk about what I just talked about the cannabis industry or anything else, here's the phone numbers again. It's 909-383-1000, 909-383-9000, either 1000 or 9000. And for the best caller tonight, we're going to give away a free gift. We got a wonderful book here. It's called Books of the Dead, Manual for Living and Dying. So
what is it?
Isn't that great?
Sure.
It's called Books of the Dead.
Oh yeah.
Most people, if you're just listening on the radio, you can't see it. But if you're on the internet, you can see me holding up here Books of the Dead, and we're going to give this wonderful book away to the best caller. So call in and let's talk. All right. Anyway, hi Sam.
Hi, Lanny.
Well, okay. What should we talk about? You want to talk about what's going on in Washington right now with Trump and this kind of stuff, and he's going to give an economic address, I guess, tomorrow. Not an address. He's actually going to do a press conference, I guess it's tomorrow, about economy, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he talks about, because he's been talking about the tariffs. He's going to be 25% tariffs to Mexico, 25% tariffs to Canada, and then these other increase the tariffs that are already there on China, and God knows what he wants to do to Europe. And it's just going to crazy. What's going to be interesting? Every economist says you put in tariffs, you raise prices up because they just pass the cost of the tariffs on to the consumer, and that's going to make inflation go up. And he's already backpedaled. He says, "Well, I don't think grocery prices are going to go down. I don't think they're going to go down." He's now saying that, even though during he's running for election, he said, "Oh, we're going to bring grocery prices down," and we'll have to wait and see what happens with gas prices. I mean, supposedly he's going to, just give carte blanche to the gas and oil companies, who, by the way, if you remember, he told them at a meeting, the executives from the gas and oil companies, that if they give him $1 billion for his campaign for advertising, he will sit there and make sure that laws are written that are make sure that they make really good profits. So I don't know if they gave them money or not, but she's going to try to. But I don't know. The infrastructure has to be built, so I don't think the prices of gas are going to go down anywhere that much. We'll wait and see. But still, I don't. And then what's going to happen to all the programs? Musk is out there. He's going to cut $2 trillion out of the budget. That's almost all the discretionary spending for everything from food stamps to aid for disasters, to medical programs, to street programs, all kinds of programs that the government runs. Discretionary spending, they call it. A lot of them are going to lose their funding. Non-discretionary, like Social Security and Medicare, but they're going to go after that too. Yes, Sam.
why don't you consider the other side of these issues? I'm
And that
talking
is?
about the anti-Trump movement.
Okay.
You see, the media has been ignoring the fact that there have been several inciting incidents that have occurred recently. On New Year's Eve, there were 2 of them. These are inciting incidents against Trump. And this is the way a civil war starts. It starts with incidents that the media and the government considers random, stupid idiots, all right? And then they become so consistent that the people will start to draw lines between the dots. Now, sometime next spring, when the weather's comfortable and Trump has screwed up plenty, there's going to start to be demonstrations in public. They'll probably start on college campuses. Now, Trump is going to suppress these, like Nixon did. Let us not forget that Nixon policies resulted in the death of 4 students at Kent State in 1970 at the guns of the local ROTC. Now, that caused riots on campuses all over the United States. And that's what's going to occur. This is a set of chain reactions. And when the campuses are closed down, either at the end of the semester in May or June, or just because their presidents closed them down, these demonstrations are going to move off campus and become riots. Now, you think back to the hottest year since the 1960s, since the 1860s, the hottest year was 1968. Because after King and Kennedy were assassinated, 40 major cities erupted in riots during the summer of 1968, which ultimately resulted in the Chicago Democratic Convention, which was a riot for an entire week, and weakened the Democratic Party so much that George McGovern, in 1968, Hubert Humphrey lost to Nixon. Nixon ran on a platform of law and order. He's going to shut everybody down, end all these riots. Now, that's how Trump ran. But now we have, I'm old enough to remember this. This is not history that our children get in their books. This is not history that our college students get in their books. They don't know this. But this is personal history for me. And this is a fact. This is what happened, and this is how it happened in the 1960s. I believe that next year we're on the verge of a literally hot civil war. I mean, the riots will end up in looting, murders, snipers, burglaries, assaults, maybe even worse. And what's Trump going to do? He's going to send out the armed forces. The governors are going to send out their state coast guards.
And the local police as well.
And in this situation, ultimately, we're going to find out that a lot of bleeding heart liberals like me have loaded armed weapons and care enough about this country that they're going to take them out on the street and get involved. Now, not me. I'm getting the hell out of the U.S. I'm out of here. This is why I'm leaving. I don't want to be here when it happens, because I'll be a target. I probably couldn't resist participating, but I don't even want to be a target. But this is what happened on New Year's Eve. This is what happened with 2 attempted assassinations on Trump. And there's a couple of other incidents that have occurred between the attempted assassination here in California, where they caught the guy coming from Nevada, and New Year's Eve. These are not isolated incidents. And then on top of it, you've got all the disgruntled parents whose children are being murdered in their schools. This country is in a greater state of chaos and potential hot civil war today than it has been since the 1850s. And that's what I would suggest that, we consider. I mean, here's a problem, Lanny. I respect the issues about cannabis, but that's really tightly focused, and it really comes down to the economy of it, not the social status, the empathy, and I don't know what it's going to take to turn this country around.
Well, what's going to be interesting is what's going to happen if food prices don't go down, food prices go up, which could very well happen if all of these immigrants are kicked out of the country, because I guess like half of all the people who work on the agricultural farms, picking crops and all that kind of stuff, are immigrants that could get rounded up and thrown out. So where are they going to get the workers? And the prices will go up there. And what's going to happen if they start cutting these programs that provide food stamps and aid to low-income people and all this kind of stuff, and all these red states? The red states are really totally dependent on federal money. They get lots of federal money. The state of where was I reading it? Was it the state of Oklahoma? The state of Oklahoma, for every dollar the state of Oklahoma sends to the federal government, they get $4 back. $4 back. Whereas blue states like Massachusetts, which is being cared for, they get back less money from the federal government that they put in. These red states are totally dependent on the federal government for a lot of their assistance and their programs and this kind of stuff. And if Musk and what's his name, I can't even pronounce his last name, go through with this Dodge thing, and Trump and the Republicans buy into it, a lot of these programs are going to get closed. How are these people going to react when their prices don't go down? They may actually go up, and a lot of the programs that they depend on. And what are they going to do? And what are they going to do to Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act? That's one of the things that Trump hates. And he says he has a concept of a plan to replace Obamacare. Well, I mean, can you imagine how many, 20, 30, 40 million people are now get their health insurance through the Affordable Care Act, and they're going to lose it, or it's going to be severely cut? How are these people going to react? And I think they may, there may be some major demonstrations of people protesting these cuts. Not violent demonstrations, but still major demonstrations with thousands and thousands of people showing up in their state capitals and this kind of stuff, protesting all these cuts. And Trump's not going to stand for it. He's not going to stand for any kind of opposition to what he wants to do, and he'll send in the National Guard. The local police love Trump. Almost every single police union in the United States support Trump, and they'll be so glad to send in their uniformed officers and to beat up all these demonstrators and protesters. Are the chaos of the economy that I think Trump's going to have. Yes.
Do you remember all the demonstrations on campus earlier last year against Israel's war? Those were big. Okay, well, those are big. And they were mad at Biden. And Biden was a lot more liberal about it than Trump is. Trump thinks that the Palestinians ought to be wiped out. He's appointed what's his name? Hutchinson, this former governor of Arkansas, who's a born-again evangelistic Christian.
Asa Hutchinson.
Yeah. And he has explicitly said there is no such thing as a Palestinian. Now, I'm saying, put this in perspective. You can use the past to predict the future. And last year, they were taking over campuses everywhere. You say not violent demonstrations? Well, yeah, as long as the police didn't come in, but as soon as the police came in, they brought violence. They were violent demonstrations. They just, the demonstrators didn't fire back.
Yeah.
Come this next spring with Trump's policies, they'll probably fire back.
Mm-hmm. Who knows what's going to happen? It's going to be interesting to see if prices go down and gas goes down and that kind of stuff. We'll see what happens. We're going to see just what happens. So everything I read is that
this is the problem, Lanny. I mean, the problem is that politics in America is not for people; it's for money. There's no empathy left, there's no empathy left in the elected officials. There's no empathy left in the voters. The voters vote their fear and they vote their pocketbook. And this is the problem with the United States. Lenny, every time you say, you worry about the economy, the cost of eggs, the fact that eggs aren't here, the cost of groceries going up, the cost of gas going up. What the fuck? This is the richest goddamn country in the world. What are you bitching about?
Yep.
And for people to vote on that and no other issue demonstrates that this country operates on nothing but greed. Lanny, I went through Latin America last summer. I didn't see one homeless person. I went through Latin America wondering Bogota, okay, Quito, Guayaquil, Cali, Medellin, Cartagena. Where are the tent people? Where's all these people? There's nobody living on the street. We got 100,000 homeless people here in LA alone. Where's the homeless people in Latin America? These countries are poor countries. Where's the homeless people? There are none. And the reason, Lanny, is because they put a high emphasis on family. Here in America, it used to be traditional to kick your kid out at the age of 18. That's the way I was treated. Today, some are returning home after college because they can't find a job. But in Latin America, a family is dishonored and excommunicated by their community if they let one of their own go live homeless. This is why you'll find a shack where 8 or 10 members of one family are living in because they take care of each other. These homeless people on the street have no money, they have mental illnesses, they have drug problems, they can't afford rent, and they don't have a family that will take care of them. That's the difference between other countries. It's the same thing in European countries. The European countries that provide total health care, provide minimum annual income, they are empathy-based. And America is greed and selfishness-based. And until it changes from the heart, it's only going to get worse. Doesn't matter what the prices are. See, I had a great history teacher in college at Orange Coast College named Hank Pannion. And at the beginning of every semester, the first hour of every class was spent answering a question. Hank Pannion used to ask, what do Americans really want? And we would go through the first 40, 45 minutes of listening to answers, and nobody would get it right. And finally, at the end, the last 5 minutes, Hank Pannion would answer the question, what do Americans really want? The answer is one word, more.
Yeah.
Never satisfied. Enough is never enough. They have this constant race who's going to be the richest man in America. And then these fucking idiots go out and vote for him because he's wealthy. This country is rotten to the core. And I say this, my ancestors came over from Ireland in the 1830s. And I'm going to be the first of my lineage to leave this country. And there are, to no surprise, millions who are doing it right now, quietly. Because the government's not keeping track of them, the media's not following them, the news is not following them. I don't know. I'm leaving this country. I'm not coming back for at least 2 years, maybe 4.
Yeah, I hear you.
Every time Trump comes on TV, he had a press conference this morning. I change the channel as fast as I can. He just makes me sick to my very stomach. I'm sorry.
That's okay. In that press conference, he was talking about absorbing Canada into the United States.
Stupid motherfucker. He wants to go after, pardon my language, radio. He wants to go after the Panama Canal again. Listen, I was in Panama. Let me tell you, I didn't want to stay there. They hate Americans, and they've got good reason to do so. You want a war? You want a war? Try to take the Panama Canal back.
Well, what it says here, he says Trump said he would use, quote, economic force, end quote, to join Canada and the United States together. That's what he said in Palm Beach. You get rid of the artificial drawing line.
And here's another problem. Here's another problem. The individuals in government who do have empathy are turning into chicken shits. Chicken shits. Just like my fellow left-wing liberals. Listen, man. Politics is war. War is hell. The only rule is there are no rules. You can be positive and friendly and empathetic all you want on one side, but if you're not prepared to fight fire with fire, you're going to lose.
Well, it's one of the things is that the one of the things I talked about is the right wing has developed over the last 10, 15 years an amazing media presence on the internet and on radio and television, with Fox News and all this kind of stuff. And one of the things that somebody pointed out to me is that the Republican candidates and Republican representatives go to all these shows at a drop of a hat and talk and meet and all this kind of stuff. It's very difficult to get Democrats to come onto the shows. I've invited a number of Democrats to come onto the show and speak with the audience, and no, they just can't be bothered. And I think that's one of the problems is that the media exposure. If you remember what was going on during the 2024 election, the media was really dominated by the Republicans. And the Democrats had very, very poor exposure on the media. They spent a lot of money on advertising. That's true. They certainly spent a lot of money on advertising, but they weren't getting the media. And people listen to the media. They pay attention.
It goes back further than that, Lanny. It goes back all the way to the 1950s with the anti-communist Red Scare. And that led to Nixon's silent majority, which led to Jerry Falwell's loud people who were calling themselves Christians, and that's when the unity of church and state began, was with Jerry Falwell. It's been going on. It's a constant struggle. But the last time the media was on the side of the people and not the power was all the way back into World War II and the Great Depression before that. It's been a slow but sure change. But the greatest change was under Reagan. Reagan screwed this country worse than any president before or since. Reagan eliminated the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine was a policy that stated it required a media outlet to give equal time to both sides.
That's right.
So one side could buy it, but then they had to give it free to the other side. Equal. Now, Reagan eliminated that because he knew that when money commanded politics, the right-wing conservative, greedy fucking asshole was going to take over. And that's what's happened.
Yep, that's right. You're right.
Think about it. I mean,
well, and the newspaper, and the problem is that the news media, the newspapers, so many of them have closed down, or they become just shells of what they originally were. Here in Riverside, there used to be a newspaper, still is, called the Riverside Press Enterprise, and it was the big newspaper, and they had huge staff. And about 5 years ago, I went down to the building that they owned in Riverside to talk to one of the reporters, and I walked on, and there was this room that had desks. They must have had desks for 200 people there, and there was about 4 or 5 people working, and that was it. All the other desks were completely empty. And the Riverside Press Enterprise.
Yeah, the generations of Americans that have grown up since the 1990s, they're telephones. They get all their news from tertiary sources that have a specific agenda. They don't think for themselves. They don't get enough information to be able to think for themselves, and there's no history taught. There's no civics taught anymore.
Well, the major problem that newspapers have faced is loss of advertising. And one of the biggest things that made newspapers earn money was classified advertising. And what killed that? Craigslist killed that. People stopped running the ads in the classifieds in the newspaper and paying for the ads, and were running all their ads on Craigslist, and which didn't cost them any money. So they lost most of their classified advertising. When you look in the classified pages of the newspaper now, they run 3-4 pages at most. It used to be 20, 15, 20 pages of classified advertising. That's where newspapers made a lot of their money in the classifieds, and that's all gone. And even Craigslist now is having a problem. They're being competed from Facebook Marketplace. If you go to Craigslist now, it's kind of a disaster trying to find anything. So people are turning now to the Facebook Marketplace, which doesn't cost any money. So newspapers they've lost a lot of their readership. So a lot of the advertisers that used to want to advertise them aren't advertising more because they don't have the readership. And the major source, they lost all their classified advertising. And you can thank Craigslist for that. Of course, you can thank the internet for that for more than anything. Times have really changed. And there's the local small newspapers are folding up, or they're being bought up by big newspapers like the Desert Sun here in Palm Springs was bought up by Gannett, which put up USA Today. And what they basically do, they have a couple of reporters that report on local news, and then they have this small concept of Gannett reporters that report national news, and that gets fed into all their papers, so they don't have to have much of a staff because they have one reporter that writes something up, and it gets printed in 30 different papers. They don't have to pay 30 different reporters to write things up. So it's a tough time for newspapers, and it's reflected in the way things are happening here. Anyway, so there we go with that. Hey, listen, if you're listening, you still have a chance. Come here and make a call. You can win this great book, The Books of the Dead. Just give us a call, 909-383-1000 or 909-383-9000. We'd really love to hear from you. I don't understand. People, I get emails after the show from people saying they thought it was a great show and they listened. I said, why did you call in? Because I didn't have anything to say. Well, whatever. We'd love to hear from you.
Well, they don't have to have anything to say. They've got a question.
That's right. You got a question
to answer, to develop a dialogue rather than just you and I running our rage monologues here.
Yes. Well, but people do find it. I do get comments on it periodically in emails from people saying they listen to the show and so forth and so on. Anyway, okay, let's continue. All right. What else?
Trump probably wants to recover Canada because so many Americans are fleeing. So many U.S. citizens are fleeing to Canada.
Yeah, and there is, but he wants Canada because
Mexico.
There is a huge expat patriot camps throughout Mexico in many cities. There's thousands and thousands of Americans who live down there because it's a lot cheaper to live down there. But they still get their Social Security. They still get their Social Security to live on in there, where it's a lot cheaper to live. So it's a lot, and let's face it, the weather's nicer down there in a lot of parts of the United States. Right now, back east, it's horrid. It's just absolutely horrid, I guess, with the storm that's socking in Washington, D.C. and the area about their freezing cold temperatures. I don't know why anybody would possibly want to live there. I'm here in Palm Springs, and the weather is in the mid-70s. So that's a great place. I'm really, people sit there and say they knock California. I am so glad I live in California. It's a wonderful state. They take care of people. There's this chart. If you want me to send this to you, I have a chart that compares blue states to red states on things like health care, on longevity, on infant mortality. I have a chart. And the blue states are at the top of the chart with low infant mortality, and they live longer than the red states. And I have this wonderful comparative chart I will be glad to send you. All you have to do is send an email to me, Lanny, Lanny, that's all, Lanny, RN, at AOL.com, and say, send me the charts. And I'll send you all three of these charts showing why living in a blue state is so much better than living in a red state on every single standard you could possibly think of.
They're available online with a simple Google search or whatever you call it.
You can search it out, but if you want my charts that I made up, you have to go to me because they're not available online. RN Lanny excuse me, yeah, rnlanny at AOL.com, and I'll send you these wonderful charts that you can sit there and take a look at. Okay, well, let's say, what else should we only have about 10 minutes left, or 5, 6, 7 minutes left. So what should we talk about for 5 or 6 minutes? What's coming up? We just went through the holiday season. I refer to it as the Christian heat season, and it's I just get this feeling of I'm an atheist, and I just anything that celebrates religion and the God concept always just aggravates me so much, because it's such a horrible when you think of what has when a medicine comes out, and whether it should be prescribed or not, or given to people, you weigh the benefits of taking the medicine versus the benefits, the negative consequences of taking the medicine. Some medicine has some very negative consequences. And the negative consequences sometimes are so disastrous that you don't give the medicine because it's more dangerous than what they do good. But if the benefits outweigh taking the medication, benefits outweigh the negatives, then they prescribe the medication. And that's the way most medications are. There's no medication out there that has zero negative consequences. Even cannabis has a little bit, but compared to the negative consequence, for example, let's take like the COVID vaccine. Seems to say, oh my God, the COVID has some people get sick sometimes. Yeah, some people they could develop pericarditis, but it's very, 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 very rare. In the meantime, millions of people don't get COVID, don't wind up in hospitals, and stay healthy. So the benefits of taking the COVID vaccine far outweigh the negative consequences that may develop from it. And the same thing should be done with religion. You should look at it and say, okay, what are the benefits of the God system? Okay, you got to remember, there's not a single study out there that shows anything like a God or a supernatural force exists. Absolutely none. There is more evidence. There's more evidence out there. There's more evidence out there that Trump won the 2020 election than there is that a God exists. And yet.
But you're asking people to think for themselves. Most Americans, most U.S. citizens. I have to get away from calling Americans.
Well, yeah.
Most U.S. citizens. The biggest problems with them is they all their lives they stay with the religion and the politics they were born into without ever questioning it. It's merely because they don't want to think.
Well, I know, but
they don't want to think for themselves.
But I will talk to them. I will on Facebook. I see these religious posts, thank God for all the wonderful things he does. And I will post back, things like hurricanes and tornadoes and diseases and famines and droughts and all. Thank God for that, as well as, the rainbows or whatever it is you think you should be good at. You can't say, you can't say God always does these wonderful things. He does all these horrible things too.
The only difference whether there's a God or not a God makes is that individuals who cannot accept their own mortality want to think that they're going to go to heaven and live forever. Listen, Lanny, God is to adults what Santa Claus is to children. It's the same thing.
Yeah. This eternal life thing has always puzzled me. Here are these people, they believe they're going to die and they're going to live forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Now they expect the universe is going to go around about 100 trillion years before it kind of freezes up and stuff. But all I can think is, after the first couple billion years, you'll be bored to death. What are you're going to run out of movies to watch on Netflix? And what are you going to talk about for 2 billion years? Give me a break. You will be bored to death. You will, and the thing is, what's the thing about, if people, if it's so wonderful up there, why don't you just kill yourself and go up there and die? Because you're having a wonderful time being dead. You have more fun being dead than when you're alive. I'm sorry, that's not the way it works. You have more fun being alive when you're alive than when you're dead, because you're not doing anything. But the fact is that these people, They come with thing. You can't commit suicide. You can't commit suicide. You can't do that.
No.
All this kind of stuff. And the reason you can't is because if you kill yourself, then you won't be able to work for slave wages for the upper class.
Nobody knows. Nobody knows. It's the unknown.
Nobody knows
what's
what's
comes
unknown.
down to whether you operate out of fear or out of trust. Do you fear the unknown, or can you trust yourself to know the unknown as you become it? That's what, religion, all religions that talk about reincarnation or whatever happens after you die, they are for people who cannot accept the reality of now. They have a fear of death because they don't know what happens after that. Therefore, rather than just to accept the fact that they don't know, they have to have an idol to believe in.
That is the old argument that, if you have to believe or not believe, you should choose to believe, because if you're wrong, you're going to burn in hell for all your life. And if you don't believe, and then there really turns out to be, you're going to burn. You've thrown away your chance to live for 1 billion years and talk with somebody for 1 billion years. You know what I thought? What if you die and that person you can't stand talking with also went to heaven, and they won't leave you alone, and they keep trying to talk to you for 2 billion years, and you don't want to talk to them? Well, you can't. What are you gonna do? They can't. Can you kill somebody in heaven? If you meet somebody you don't like in heaven, can you do away with them or something? I don't. That's a good question. I've never heard that's the question discussed.
There's safety in agreement.
3 minutes till.
In the mutual agreement, because that way people don't have to think for themselves, and that's where churches come in.
Yeah. Well, listen, I was just told by our engineer Eric that we've got less than 2 minutes left. So I want to say thank you for anybody who's listening in. I'm sure there is some people listening in. Send me an email. And I will send you those charts I told you about blue states versus red states. They are eye openers. RN Lanny, LANNY at AOL.com. Also, I have a website that you might want to check out. It's called scientificfreethinkers.com. That's scientific, SCIENTIFIC, freethinkers, FREETHINKERS. Now, it's a long word to type out, scientificfreethinkers.com. But you'll find articles I've written about all kinds of things, everything from an atheist contemplates death to the biggest lie and all kinds. I think you'll find it kind of an interesting website to sniff around and take a look. And also there's a little form that'll pop up that you can sign up for and get my little newsletter that I occasionally send out. I don't send it out very often. I will promise you that your email box will not get inundated by emails from me about things that you really don't want to hear about. One other thing is, if you're interested in marijuana information, I have another website called marijuananews.org. The words marijuananews.org, and there is a thing there where you can subscribe to my newsletter there, in which I'll keep you up to date on some of the things going on marijuana. And once again, I promise you, you will not get emails in your box after email after email after email. I send it out maybe once a month, so you won't get it. So either go to both scientificfreethinkers.com or marijuananews.org and get on my email list and read what the information I have on there. I think you will find it of interest. Well, I hear the music thing. Sam, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hey, folks, if you enjoyed tonight's show, next week will be even better. Good night. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.